What if the most sacred day of your life wasn't as spiritually pure as you believe? The moment you say your vows, surrounded by loved ones, promising a lifetime of commitment, it feels holy, meaningful, and deeply God-honoring. But have you ever stopped to ask, where did these traditions actually come from? For many people, the answer is surprising. Some of the most common wedding customs didn't originate in religious teachings at all. Instead, they developed over centuries through different cultures, including ancient civilizations like Egypt and Rome, long before they were ever associated with Christian ceremonies. Take the wedding ring, for example. It's seen today as the ultimate symbol of eternal love, a perfect, unbroken circle. But historically, rings were used in ancient societies as symbols of ownership or agreements between families. Over time, their meaning evolved, and they became a symbol of commitment and unity in many cultures. Now, here's the important question. Does the origin of a tradition automatically make it wrong? Not necessarily. In many faith traditions, including Christianity, what matters most is intention and meaning. The Bible emphasizes the covenant of marriage as a spiritual bond, something rooted in faith, love, and commitment, not in physical objects. A ring, in that sense, is simply a reminder, not the source of the bond itself. The real concern arises when symbols begin to replace faith, when people start believing that an object holds power rather than representing something deeper. For instance, if someone feels their marriage is somehow broken or cursed just because they lost a ring, that may indicate a shift from spiritual understanding to superstition. But again, this is about mindset, not the object itself. Let's look at another common tradition: bridesmaids and groomsmen. Today, they represent support, friendship, and community. But historically, in some ancient Roman customs, people dressed similarly to the bride and groom to confuse evil spirits and protect the couple. Sounds strange, right? But over time, this meaning completely changed. Today, no one includes friends in their wedding out of fear of spirits. It's about love, support, and shared joy. This highlights something important. Backhand index pointing right traditions evolve. Backhand index pointing right meanings change. Backhand index pointing right intentions matter more than origins. So instead of fearing every tradition, a better approach is to ask, what does this mean to me today? Does it align with my beliefs and values? Am I placing faith in God or my core beliefs, or in symbols and rituals? Because at the end of the day, a wedding isn't defined by rings, outfits, or customs. It's defined by the commitment between two people and the sincerity of their intentions that we are called to trust in the overwhelming power and sovereignty of God. As it is written in Psalm 91 verse 1, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." So why would we ever need decoys when we have the covering of God Himself? But this is not even the most concerning part. The deeper spiritual danger is that this tradition normalizes a mindset rooted in fear. It subtly suggests that we must rely on human strategies or symbolic acts to protect ourselves from evil, rather than standing firm in the authority and power given through Jesus Christ. It introduces fear-based thinking into what should be a declaration of faith and trust in God. What message does that send? Imagine a modern wedding where everyone is focused on perfectly matching outfits purely for tradition. Without realizing it, they may be echoing a custom that once came from fear rather than faith. Instead of being a pure celebration of love and commitment, the ceremony risks becoming something shaped by unnecessary anxiety, something that has no place in a believer's heart. The danger is not in the people or the celebration itself, but in allowing fear and superstition to quietly replace faith and trust in God's protection. And if such ideas can be hidden in something as simple as who stands beside you at the altar, they can also appear in the joyful traditions that follow. Take the wedding cake, for example. Today, the cutting of the cake is seen as a joyful and symbolic moment, a celebration of unity and shared happiness. It's sweet, photogenic, and brings everyone together. It seems completely harmless. But historically, this tradition evolved from ancient Roman practices. Instead of a cake, a loaf of bread was broken over the bride's head, and the crumbs were shared. This act was believed to bring fertility and blessings for children. Over time, the meaning changed, and today it is simply a celebration of joy. However, it raises an important question. Where do we place our trust? The Bible teaches clearly in Psalm 127 verse 3, "Children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward." This reminds us that blessings come from God, not from rituals or symbols. The real issue arises when traditions begin to influence our thinking in subtle ways. When people start associating blessings with actions or rituals instead of faith. Even something as simple as feeding each other cake, while harmless in itself, should be understood as a symbol of love, not a source of blessing. This is the key point. It's not the tradition itself, but the meaning we attach to it. Now consider another popular wedding moment, the bouquet toss. It's fun, exciting, and often one of the most anticipated parts of the celebration. The bride throws her bouquet, and whoever catches it is said to be the next to marry. But this tradition has unusual origins. In medieval Europe, people believed that obtaining something from the bride would bring good luck. To avoid chaos, brides began tossing their bouquets as a distraction. Today, it's just a playful game, but it still carries an important lesson. Marriage is not based on luck or chance. It is not something to be caught or predicted through a random moment. Scripture teaches that a life partner is part of God's plan, given in His perfect timing. As Proverbs 19 verse 14 says, "A prudent wife is from the Lord." The concern is when people begin to take such ideas seriously, placing hope in chance instead of trust in God. This can create unnecessary pressure, impatience, or unrealistic expectations. Faith calls for patience, wisdom, and trust, not superstition. Finally, consider one of the most romantic traditions, a husband carrying his bride into their new home. Today, it symbolizes love, protection, and care. But historically, this act was sometimes linked to superstitions about protecting the bride from evil spirits at the threshold. Again, the meaning has changed over time. And that brings us to the most important conclusion. Not every tradition is harmful, but every tradition should be understood. As believers, the focus should always remain on faith, intention, and truth. Traditions can be beautiful expressions of love and culture, but they should never replace trust in God or become sources of fear or superstition. At the end of the day, a wedding is not made holy by rituals, objects, or customs. It is made meaningful by sincerity, commitment, and a foundation built on faith. It feels so right, so romantic, so perfect. A loving husband carrying his bride into their new home, a moment we've all seen in movies, stories, and real weddings. It symbolizes protection, care, and the beginning of a new life together. But have you ever asked yourself, what is he actually protecting her from? This is perhaps one of the most openly misunderstood traditions still practiced today. Its origins trace back to ancient Rome, not as a romantic gesture, but as a response to deep fear. Romans believed that evil spirits lingered at the threshold of a home, waiting to harm the bride as she entered. If she stumbled while crossing the doorway, it was seen as a terrible omen, a sign that she had fallen under the influence of these spirits. So the groom would carry her, not out of love, but to prevent her from touching the threshold and to outsmart the spirits believed to be waiting there. Think about that for a moment. This entire act was built on fear. Fear of the unseen, fear of bad luck, and fear of spiritual harm. But for a believer, this stands in complete contrast to the truth of faith. We are not called to live in fear of unseen forces. We are called to live in confidence, knowing that God's protection is greater than anything in this world. As it is written in 1 John 4 verse 4, "He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world." Our homes are not protected by rituals. They are protected by God's presence. The real concern is not the act itself, but the mindset behind it. When traditions like this are followed without understanding, they can subtly reinforce a worldview where fear and superstition take the place of faith. Instead of beginning a new life with prayer, trust, and spiritual confidence, the moment can unknowingly reflect anxiety and symbolic protection. Imagine this. A couple enters their new home for the first time. Instead of pausing to pray, to dedicate their home, and to invite God's blessing, their first action is shaped by an old tradition rooted in fear. Even if they don't believe in its origin, the symbolism still raises an important question. Backhand index pointing right, what are we placing our trust in? Because the foundation of a home should never be fear. It should be faith. Warning: powerful closing message. When you step back and look at all these traditions together, a bigger picture begins to form. From the ring on your finger, to the people standing beside you, to the cake you cut, to the bouquet you throw, and even the way you enter your home. Many of these customs have traveled through history, carrying meanings that have changed over time. And that leads us to an important truth. The issue is not the tradition itself. It is the meaning, belief, and mindset we attach to it. If traditions are simply expressions of love, culture, and celebration, they can be beautiful. But if they begin to replace faith, if they lead to superstition, fear, or misplaced trust, then they deserve to be questioned. Because blessings do not come from rituals. Protection does not come from symbols. And the success of a marriage does not depend on traditions. It comes from God alone. That is why understanding truth matters. As it is written in Romans 12 verse 2, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God." Discernment is your protection. Awareness is your strength. If this message made you think differently, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more content that helps you understand truth more clearly, make sure to subscribe and stay connected. Because sometimes, the things we never question are the ones we most need to understand. May God guide you, protect you, and bless your life and your home.